Hey everyone, and welcome to NFL Nexus. For what feels like a lifetime, the New York Giants' biggest problem, their Achilles heel, has been the offensive line. Year after year, it's the same story, right? They spend draft picks, they sign free agents, and somehow the struggle just continues. We've all seen it. High draft picks who just don't pan out, expensive signings that flop, leaving this constant revolving door of linemen trying to protect their quarterback. And this offseason, well, it feels like déjà vu. The crazy first wave of free agency, with all the insane contracts and huge headlines, that's come and gone. But for the really smart front offices, this is where the real work begins. This is where you build a team that can actually survive a 17-game season. And that's why one seemingly small event, a visit from a veteran lineman named Ryan Bates, is what we're talking about today. Look, it might not be the blockbuster signing fans were hoping for, but it could be an absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle. So let's dive in and break down what this move could really mean for the G-Men.
So you really have to understand the rhythm of the NFL offseason. That first week of free agency, it's just pure chaos. It's a feeding frenzy where the biggest names on the market get these mind-boggling contracts that completely reset everything. We saw it this year, right? Quarterbacks, pass rushers, tackles, all getting these massive nine-figure deals. And for fans, it's a total roller coaster. You're either on top of the world because your team landed a star, or you're in complete despair because your biggest rival just got way, way better. But that period, it's over in a flash. The big money dries up, the top guys are all signed, and then it gets quiet. The market cools off. And this, right here, is the moment where the truly great front offices show you why they're the best. The game shifts from making a splash to building real, strategic depth. So that begs the question, what are they doing right now? What are the architects of the league's best teams focused on, away from all those big headlines?
The answer is actually pretty simple. They're bargain hunting. This is the second wave of free agency, and honestly, it's probably the most important one. This is where value is absolutely king. Teams are now digging through who's left, looking for very specific kinds of players. They're looking for those seasoned vets who maybe got cut, not because they can't play, but because their contract was just too big. They're looking for guys coming off a down year or an injury who are now super motivated to sign a one-year prove-it deal so they can cash in next year. Or they're targeting specialists who can fill one critical role, a third down back, a slot corner, or, in this case, a versatile interior offensive lineman who can be the glue that holds the whole unit together. This isn't about winning the press conference in March. It's about finding those gritty, reliable guys who you're going to desperately need in Week 14 when injuries start piling up. It's about building a roster that can take a punch. And that philosophy leads us right to the guy we're focusing on today.
All right, so let's get to it. Let's meet the man of the hour, Ryan Bates. Now, look, if you're not a diehard Buffalo Bills or Chicago Bears fan, you're probably thinking, Ryan who? And that's fair. He's not a guy who's going to be on the cover of Madden or anything. He's not a perennial Pro Bowler, but he is the perfect example of the type of player that smart teams go after in this part of the offseason. He's a seasoned vet, he gets the pro game, he's seen different schemes, he knows what it takes to prepare like a pro, and he is incredibly versatile, which we're going to get into in just a minute. Honestly, his whole career path is just a testament to the kind of grit you need to survive in the NFL trenches.
Yeah, this timeline here really tells the story of a classic NFL journeyman. Think about it. Bates was a good player at a huge program, Penn State, a school they call O-Line U. But on draft weekend back in 2019, his name was never called. And being an undrafted free agent, you start at the absolute bottom of the totem pole. You have to fight and claw for every single rep, every opportunity, and you carry this massive chip on your shoulder. He first signed with the Eagles, but that didn't last long. Before his rookie year even started, boom, he's traded to the Buffalo Bills. And that move really defined the first half of his career. For 5 seasons up in Buffalo, he was a vital piece of their machine, protecting a superstar quarterback in Josh Allen, being part of a winning team. After that, he did a 2-year stint with the Chicago Bears, and now as a free agent, his journey has brought him to the New York Giants. It's not the glamorous path of a top 5 pick, for sure, but it is a story of survival and proving your value in this league.
So let's drill down into what Ryan Bates actually brings to a team. At 29 years old, he's kind of in that sweet spot for an offensive lineman, right? He's got 6 years of NFL experience, so the game isn't moving too fast for him, but he's not so old that you're worried about a huge physical drop-off. But the main thing, the reason a team like the Giants is even having this conversation, is his versatility. The man has real, meaningful, in-game experience at all 3 interior spots, left guard, center, and right guard. For an offensive line coach, that's like having a Swiss Army knife. If your starting center rolls an ankle in practice, Bates can jump in and the whole protection scheme doesn't fall apart. If your guard gets banged up, he slides right over. That flexibility is just priceless over a long season. He's played in 92 games, which tells you he's good enough to stick around. But here's the most telling stat. He's only started 21 of those games. That pretty much defines his role. He's not a set-it-and-forget-it starter, he's a top-tier backup, a swing lineman who gives you solid play at multiple positions. But, and this is really important, don't let that backup label fool you. Because while that's been his main job, when he has gotten the chance to start for a while, Bates has shown he can play at a really, really high level. This number right here, 99.0, that was his pass blocking efficiency score from Pro Football Focus during his best year with the Bills. Now, to put that in perspective, that's a metric that basically measures how many pressures you allow per snap. Anything over 98 is considered really good for a starter. A 99.0, that is elite territory. That's the kind of number you see from guys who are getting Pro Bowl buzz. It means, on a down-by-down basis, he was one of the most reliable pass protectors in the entire league during that stretch. So the potential, the ceiling, is definitely there.
Okay, this slide right here, this is the whole ballgame. This perfectly captures the debate that's happening inside the Giants front office right now. First, just look at that potential. During his peak in Buffalo, playing mostly right guard, Bates was basically a brick wall. Over 834 pass-blocking snaps, which is a huge sample size, by the way, he gave up just 1 sack. 1, that's just an insane level of consistency. That's the guy you were dreaming of signing to a bargain deal. But then, you have to look at the other side of the coin, the risk. His last 2 years in Chicago were just riddled with injuries. He only managed to get on the field for 19 games. So the whole evaluation comes down to one massive question. Which Ryan Bates are you getting? Are the injuries just a string of bad luck, or a sign that his body is starting to break down? This is where the medical staff really earns their money. It's a high-stakes gamble for sure.
So we've got a pretty clear picture of Ryan Bates, right? Versatile, experienced, high ceiling, but with a big injury question mark. Now, to really understand why this visit is such a big deal, we have to flip the script and look at the team itself. Because the New York Giants are in a state of absolute desperate need on the interior of their offensive line. And this isn't a new problem. Oh no, this is a chronic issue, a crisis that has been plaguing this team for the better part of a decade. It's held back star running backs, it's gotten quarterbacks hurt, and heading into this season, it is still probably the single biggest question mark on the entire roster.
I mean, just look at this table. It lays out the whole scary situation perfectly. Let's go through it. At center, their main backup from last year, Austin Schlottmann, is gone. He's a Titan now. That leaves a massive hole behind their young starter, John Michael Schmitz. If Schmitz misses any time, who is snapping the ball? I don't know. That's terrifying for any offense. At left guard, okay, they signed John Runyon Jr., who is a solid player, but it's not some huge long-term commitment. And then you get to right guard, which is just a total black hole. Greg Van Roten, who was actually okay there last year, is still a free agent. The plan right now seems to be kicking former first-round tackle Evan Neal inside to guard, which is a massive experiment. The footwork, the timing, it's a completely different world in there. We're not just talking about a lack of depth here, we're talking about a lack of clear, proven starters.
And you know what makes this whole situation even crazier? The Giants' approach during that first wave of free agency. While other teams were throwing money around to fix their offensive lines, the Giants were silent. They didn't really make a run at any of the top guards or centers on the market. Now, why is that? Was it a salary cap thing? Was it a deliberate choice by Joe Schoen to build through the draft? Or did they just swing and miss on the guys they wanted? Whatever the reason, the result is the same. I mean, they brought back Aaron Stinney, but he was a deep reserve. This lack of major investment makes a guy like Ryan Bates go from being a nice-to-have luxury to a borderline necessity. They desperately need a veteran in that room who can provide some stability.
Now here's where things get really interesting. You have to understand, this visit isn't just a random shot in the dark. The Giants aren't just throwing darts at a list of available linemen. Nope, there's a huge underlying connection here, a relationship that makes Ryan Bates a very logical, very calculated target for this front office. So let's connect the dots. So you hear this term thrown around all the time in the NFL, front office ties. What does that actually mean? Well, it's pretty simple. It just means that a team's general manager or another top executive has worked directly with a player at a previous team. And this is way more than just watching film on a guy. They know the player's character, they know his work ethic, they know how he prepares, how he handles a tough loss. They might know that this guy played through a painful injury and still showed up an hour early every single day for treatment without ever being told to. That's the kind of information you can't get from a stat sheet. This familiarity just massively reduces the risk. You're not signing a resume, you're signing a person you already know and trust.
And here it is. This is the critical connection. The Giants' current general manager, Joe Schoen, was the assistant general manager in Buffalo for Ryan Bates' entire 5-year run with the Bills. Schoen was a key part of the front office that first identified Bates, that traded for him, and that watched him develop from an undrafted nobody into a key player for a Super Bowl contender.
As the assistant GM, he would have been right in the middle of all the personnel decisions, the contract talks, the day-to-day evaluations. He has seen firsthand how Bates works. This isn't just a scout's recommendation getting passed up the chain. This is a move based on years of direct personal knowledge. Joe Schoen knows exactly what he'd be getting.
And this isn't just speculation either. It's been confirmed by one of the most respected Giants reporters out there, Patricia Traina. Her report lays out the facts very clearly. Veteran lineman, played at Penn State, 5 seasons with the Bills, 2 with the Bears. When a credible source like her confirms the visit, you know it's real. It's a tangible move by the Giants to address a huge weakness by targeting a player with a strong, direct connection to their GM. This move is all about familiarity and trust.
Okay, so we've laid out all the pieces, right? We have the player, Ryan Bates, we have the team, the Giants, and their desperate need, and we have the crucial connection through GM Joe Schoen. So, where does this all lead? What's the bottom line here? And how should we really be looking at this potential signing in the grand scheme of things for the Giants? Let's get into the final analysis.
For Joe Schoen and the Giants, the decision-making process probably boils down to these 3 simple steps. First, you have the fit, and on paper, it's a perfect match. The dude can play all 3 interior spots. He's a one-stop shop for their depth problems. It's a no-brainer. Second, you have the cost. Look, this move is not going to break the bank. At this point in the offseason, Bates is probably looking at a modest 1-year deal, maybe with some incentives tied to playing time. It's a really low-risk financial move that gives them some valuable insurance. And then, step 3, you have the big one, the concern. The medical evaluation is everything here. The doctors have to go over his injury history with a fine-tooth comb. Look at the MRIs and make a call. Is his recent injury history just bad luck, or is it a trend? The entire decision probably hangs on that answer.
So it's really, really important that we frame this potential signing the right way. Let's be crystal clear. This is not about finding the next All-Pro. Ryan Bates is not walking through that door to be the savior of the Giants' offensive line. This move is about the boring nuts and bolts of building a roster. It's the unglamorous work that separates good teams from bad ones. It's about making sure that when your starting guard inevitably goes down in Week 9, you have a competent, experienced vet ready to step in so your whole season doesn't go down the drain. This is how you build a roster that can actually last. Now, before we get to our final thought, just a quick note. We've put a ton of work into these deep dives, and if you enjoy what we do and want to support the channel, a really cool way to do that is by checking out our NFL-themed coloring books. Seriously, they're perfect for kids, grandkids, or even for you if you're looking for a way to unwind. You can find the link down in the description or just use the QR code on your screen now. We really appreciate all the support. It helps us keep making explainers just like this one.
And so that leaves us with this one big forward-looking question. On the surface, yeah, signing Ryan Bates is a simple, logical depth move. It makes a ton of sense. But could it be something more? Could this be the first real sign of Joe Schoen finally starting to rebuild this offensive line entirely in his image? Moving on from the players he inherited, moving on from past draft busts, and instead building a foundation with guys that fit his mold, tough, versatile, high-character players that he personally knows and trusts. A player exactly like Ryan Bates. It's a move that won't make the national headlines, but it might just be the quietest, biggest indicator of where the New York Giants are headed. So what do you think? Is this just a minor move to plug a hole, or is this the start of a whole new philosophy for the Giants O-line? Let me know what you think down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, do me a favor and hit that like button, and make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus so you don't miss our next explainer. Thanks for watching.